To remind everybody, this meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The recording of the webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. At this time, I would like to remind everyone of the procedures for the public participation in tonight's meeting. Members of the public are encouraged to attend and address the board of any agenda item or topic within the board's jurisdiction. Public comments will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker with a total allotment time of 20 minutes. Speaker request forms are available at the entrance of the boardroom and can be handed to Mr. Pacina or Gina prior to the commencement. Regarding complaints, if a concern is raised about the employee, the complainant will be informed of the appropriate complaint procedure. The first step is for the complainant to submit the concern in writing to the district office, after which the district will begin the investigation process to address the issue fairly and promptly. Complaints about child abuse or unlawful discrimination will be handled in accordance with specific legal protocols. Please note that any documents handed to the board during the meeting are subject to public records request in accordance with the California Public Request Act. The board prohibits retaliation against complainants, and all complainants will be investigated promptly and impartially. Please be respectful of the meeting process. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated and may result in removal from the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. Can I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready?
The States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get started. Do I have a motion to approve the September 24, 25 regular meeting agenda?
I motion to approve.
Great. Roll call. Sandra?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
And I. Presentations. We have Kings County Office of Education 25-26 Local Control Accountability Plan. Ms. Elizabeth Mendoza.
Good evening, board. I'm happy to share that Corcoran Joint Unified School District's 2025-26 LCAP was approved by Kings County Office of Education on September 12th, 2025. Approval of the county is the final step in ensuring that our LCAP meets all the requirements that are set forth by California Department of Ed. And it was approved with a few changes or revisions, which I'll give an overview in regards. And in the fiscal section, the numbers in the budget overview for parents or BOP were updated to match those reported in the expenditure table of the LCAP. Also, a metric for California Science Test was added. We included the metric in the metrics section, the LREBG funds. Though we had already identified those in actions and increased services, they were also supposed to be in the metrics section. So we just wrote LREBG next to those metrics. And we also had to define and provide information about our work with KCOE under differentiated assistance. And finally, we removed just some blank rows that were in the template that were showing. So just to clean it up a bit. And those were the major revisions made in the LCAP. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Reports, Superintendent.
Yes, good evening, Board President Cisneros, members of the board. I'm going to yield my time actually and defer to our John Muir student, Carolina Garcia, who's going to come up and give a report on my behalf on the schools. And afterwards, we're going to have CHS students, Jake Palafox and Jason Lepe, who are going to do the high school one.
Good evening, board members, district administrators, parents, and community members. My name is Carolina Garcia Vasquez, and I'm from the JMMS ASB class. It's a busy time of year, and John Muir Middle School would like to share what's going on at our campus. The school year has started off very smoothly with the arrival of the new 6th grade classes, as well as our returning 7th and 8th graders. Parents and family members came to our back to school night to learn more about the students, classes, and teachers. Our first rally of the year was a welcome back rally, and featured a dance performance from the JMMS cheerleaders. Awesome rally games with musical chairs and Hungry Hungry Hippo being the two biggest hits. The 7th grade classes came away with the win for having the most school spirit. Great job, 7th grade. Next, our fall sports season is in full swing with our cross country team, getting ready for its first of 4 meets that will lead up to the SAL championships on October 13th. Our flag football team currently has only 1 loss and was the 2nd seed for today's SAL championship. Update: we won the championship, beating Pioneer 12-0. Our JV volleyball team is currently undefeated, and our varsity team is 5-2, and also preparing for a playoff run. Great job to all of our Wildcat sports teams. Mr. Hodgson and the theater program are ramping up preparations for the latest edition of Reindeer Games. And Mr. Juna is working hard with the JMMS marching band. Mrs. Applebaker and the leadership class are spending every Wednesday morning welcoming students with Hello Wednesdays to foster a positive school environment. Mrs. Pacheco and the Ag leadership class had their first meeting with over 40 students in attendance and has already taken students to the Tulare Fairgrounds for a livestock show. And finally, today we had our fall sports rally, where the highlight of the day was the sumo ball competition, and 6th grade coming away with the big spirit win. Thank you for letting me share all of the great things going on at JMMS, and I look forward to coming back and sharing again. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Jason?
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Jason Lepe.
My name is Jade Palafox. We are here to give you the Corcoran High School report, and we are excited to share some of the wonderful things happening at Corcoran High School.
We've kicked off the year with great energy, multiple pep rallies. We have already brought our students together in school spirit. We recently celebrated our baseball team with a constitutional assembly last Friday and a special ring ceremony to honor them as Valley champions.
Academically, we have just sent out our first progress reports. It's been inspiring to see students, especially our seniors, taking accountability and preparing for the next steps towards colleges and scholarships.
Our students are also showing strong community pride. Many have already signed up for volunteer opportunities, including this weekend's citywide cleanup, the upcoming Cotton Festival, Skate Jam, and later this month, the Trunk or Treat event.
And of course, October is almost here, which means homecoming is right around the corner. ASB is preparing to announce candidates and plan all the festivities, creating those core high school memories that will last a lifetime.
On campus, our health occupation class is partnering with the local blood bank to host our annual blood drive next Friday. Athletics and activities are also in full swing. We have a home game this Friday with a fun camo-themed rally. And our band is starting its busy season with a competition in Carruthers for a parade this weekend.
And finally, we are proud to continue celebrating positive behavior at CHS, thanks to the success of our PBIS program. We're looking forward to welcoming another food truck vendor on campus as an incentive for our students.
It's been an exciting year to start at Corcoran High School, and we can't wait to keep the momentum growing. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Great job. I like the enthusiasm, and it really makes us want to gear up this year. Good job for both of you guys. Thank you. All right, Board of Trustees, is there any report to the trustees today? Yeah. We failed in comparison to the students. Great job. Okay, Corcoran FFA? You available? No? Okay, California School Employees Association?
She wasn't here.
She wasn't here. Okay, very good. Were there any public comments, Ms. Gina? No. Okay. All right, action items, consent agenda.
Make a motion approved.
I'll second.
Roll call, Sandra?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Patty? Aye. Valerie,
Aye.
and I. Business and operations. Presenting the items is Ms. Alvarez. Audited actuals report.
Good evening. So the 2024-2025 unaudited actuals report is a review of the expenditures in the prior fiscal year. That is something that was developed in May and June of 2024, and then had some revisions throughout, and now we look back at the current month of September 2025 of what actually occurred in the fiscal year. So the two major highlights: does the district have sufficient reserves? The answer to that is yes. Our required minimum reserve amount is roughly $2 million, being 3%. We have actual reserves of 14.2 million, and that is encompassing the 2 million that is required. Additionally, 11.3 million that we have assigned locally for various earmarked items, in addition to 930,000 that is unassigned for any intended purpose presently. Outside of the reserves, the other budget highlight is that while we don't have to have a certification or a projection of our certification during the unaudited actuals process, we do just take a forward look out into the future, and we do would have a positive certification in the upcoming 25-26 budget year, meaning that we would be able to satisfy all of our financial obligations and all of our fund balances would be ending positive. A little bit further of a deep dive into the unaudited actuals process is that during that process, we look at the actual expenditures that happened, in addition to also looking at our projected expenditures. So we still have some things that we've committed with vendors, but we haven't received those final invoices, but we still make our best estimates. Once we get those invoices, we pay those out, but we book those expenditures during this process. We also look at our revenue and recognize revenue due in the 24-25 fiscal year. So part of that process is that some of the revenue we receive, we recognize all of it. Some of it stays within our fund balance, and we might spend that in future year for certain grants or funding streams. Other funding streams, we only recognize the amount of revenue that we have expenditures for in this current year. So we go through that whole process by each grant type to decide which revenue is recognized in this current year. And then finally, now that we've done this process, the books are officially closed, but we have not been audited. So we're taking the preparations over the next few months to be ready for that audit visit, with the final report coming in December. And just an overview, we see this at each interim report, but this is just a review of our current enrollment is in the actuals box. That's the 24-25 fiscal year. The column on the left is enrollment, so number of students enrolled in our campuses. That is based on the number of students in October, the first Wednesday in October. The middle column is our average daily attendance, the amount of students that are actually present in school, and that's based on our reporting in April. And the last column over is the amount we are funded on. So while we have enrollment of roughly 3,176, our actual attendance rate is 2,900. We're funded at about 3,050 almost there. And that funding is because of the average ADA from the prior 3 years. If any one year we have a higher attendance rate in the current year, we would jump up to that amount. We would take whatever the highest rate would be. And here we just have a graph or overview of total revenue that we've received in the current year or recognized. The total revenue in the general fund is $64.7 million, primarily coming from the local control funding formula that comes from the state. So that's the bulk of our funding. Outside of that main funding source, we have the state revenue being the next highest portion. That's special grants, such as the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, After School Program, arts and music, and various other ones. Outside of the state, the next largest chunk by 1% is our other local. That is largely from interest earnings, having funds available in the county treasury. We do generate interest. So we do receive that in revenue, in addition to Medi-Cal billing and other smaller grants. And outside of that then is our federal. Of the $64.7 million in revenue, our actual expenditures came to $61.8 million, 74% of which was salary and benefits, and the remaining 26% non-salary and benefits, so like materials, supplies, services, things of that nature. If we look at it in terms of what type of expenditures, a little bit more refined or diving into that a little bit further, this is showing us how our expenditures by type. So for instruction, pupil-related services, we're at 70 of our expenditures are for that reason. 11% of it is for maintenance and operations, 7% for administration, and then 4% for other services like our county CELPA. So on this slide, we just take an overview of both of those together. Our total revenue of roughly $64.5 million, expenditures of almost $62 million, has an increase to the fund balance of $2.8 million. If we dive into that again and look at the two different branches of our general fund, we have the unrestricted funding and restricted funding. Restricted funding is going to be, again, those special projects or grants received from the state. Unrestricted are just areas that we spend within our regular local control funding formula. So changes that we have had happen between the last interim and then the current end of fiscal year is that we did have an additional roughly $400,000 in interest that we didn't have projected initially. We do take that amount looking back at the prior year at the beginning, May, June time, take a review of each quarterly interest that we receive in between, and then we never know where that's really going to land at the end, but to our benefit, we did have an increased amount of interest there. Some other areas that were a benefit to us is that we have other grant funding sources that we were able to use or assign expenditures to those areas that we were able to see some relief from. Some of those are short-term, meaning it might be the current year, next year, and year out that we'll be able to earmark those expenditures towards. Others were just the current year, one-time expenditures that we saw that reduction that we won't see that again in the next year. On the restricted side, we do have part of that increase to fund balance are again from grants where that amount will be spent within the next fiscal year or next 2 fiscal years. So we're seeing that increase to our fund balance now, but in the next 2 years, we'll see us actively spending those dollars. In addition to that, we did have some just general lower expenditures in our materials and supplies within our various grants that we didn't spend by about $400,000. And then we did make some additional tech and facility investments into those earmarked funding sources that we didn't have the expenditure for yet. So we did set funds aside for those purposes. So next steps related to that, we want to make sure that our plans are matching our funding. So we are currently involved or taking steps with creating key performance indicators or key KPIs that will help us drive some plans and have intentional spending and not have any like reactionary spending. In addition to that, we're doing some quarterly check-ins with sites and department managers. We have the first quarter for our current fiscal year scheduled already. And we'll be doing the other quarter 2 and quarter 3 in January and April, just to make sure we can have really good progress checkpoints on our spending. And then lastly, we have 26-27 planning. We're going to be looking at what we think would be appropriate for staffing and other program review, having a good view of what the projections, the needed expenditures would be in those areas around January, so that we can have the plan ready for the next fiscal year 26-27. Outside of that specific planning, this is just a summary of the district funding by all of our funds, not just the general fund. So we have general fund on the left-hand side, which we kind of already went over. The ending fund balance being 35.5 million roughly. Of that 35.5 million, 17.3 is unrestricted. So just kind of if you were flipping back to that 14 million that was referenced earlier, it's that 14 million plus an additional 3.9 million for committed dollars that the board has already assigned for facilities projects. So those are those two together. In addition to the unrestricted, technically unrestricted dollars, we have the restricted fund balance being 18 million. And again, those are for those special projects and grant revenue. Other than the general fund, we have our student activity fund, and that's just where we record activity for the high school and John Muir ASB accounts. They do have their own bank accounts, but we are required to just report that activity on our site as well. The adult ed fund that did spend into the fund balance, but that was a planned and needed element. We do have a maximum carryover amount that we can have from year to year. And we were close to exceeding that, so we needed to be sure and spend down to be within our maximum carryover. Our child development fund has a slight decrease to fund balance, but that's just spending down some interest and other revenues, so they're pretty much balanced. Cafeteria fund is looking good, except for that we actually do need to be intentional on our spending there as well and make sure that we don't have an excess of fund balance there, because we are limited to only have a maximum of our 6 months worth of expenditures as our fund balance. But they're healthy overall. Deferred maintenance, fund 1400, that's where we have funding set aside for larger projects, larger repairs like roofs, air conditioners, things of that nature. So we will be well suited for upcoming projects in the summertime this coming summer. Developer fees, that's funding that comes in from community development like housing and other developmental projects in our boundaries. We had one expenditure in there, and that was our, oh my goodness, the developer fee study. Other than that, we didn't have any other expenditures. And the last fund that we have available to us is the capital outlay fund. That is where we recognize some revenue in the previous year from a reimbursement from the state on a facility project. And now in the current year, we had expenditures for the high school science modernization, a few expenditures for the Kings Lake food modular, but we will see some more expenditures in the coming year, the 25-26 fiscal year. And that is everything I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Let's see, do I have a motion to approve? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, and then that's the subsequent resolutions and whatnot that go along with the actual actions of it, but it would be approved in that agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second. Roll call, Sandra. Aye. Sammy.
Aye.
Patty. Aye. Valerie. Aye. And I. So the CEA exception, Tanya?
Yes, the CEA exemption is something that is part of the calculations in our unaudited actuals process. There is a calculation that says that we need to spend 55% of our expenditures on classroom compensation. The funding structure for schools changed a while back with the level control funding formula. When that changed, they didn't go about changing the calculation for that classroom compensation. So we used to have a lot of funds that were earmarked for categoricals. No longer are they there. They're now part of like our general funding. With that, it's become increasingly more difficult for districts to meet that. The school services group sends out a report every year of how many more districts aren't meeting that threshold. If you don't meet it, you do have the, there is a penalty where you would have to have the deficiency amount spent on classroom expenditure related compensation. However, if you meet one of the exemptions, then you don't have to. So Corcoran Unified, we do meet one of the exemptions, and that is that our salary is higher than others in our area. So included in the packet is a comparison of our salary as compared to a few other districts, and we do meet that exemption. So this is being presented to submit for the exemption with the county.
Questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All right, roll call Sandra,
Aye.
Sammy,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
and I. And then resolution number 1406, budget revision.
This is a long group of pages that shows the budget changes between the last interim report and the unaudited actuals. So this is presented just to approve those actual budget changes required by the county.
I motion to approve.
Roll call Sandra,
Aye.
Sammy,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
and I. Now we go to resolution 1407, again, resolution. Thank you.
Sorry, me again. So this calculation is another required calculation from the state. Our reporting software does do the calculation automatically for us. It is something that is geared more towards the state to help them know their spending limits as well. As part of the process, we are required to submit this for it to be adopted, that calculation. So this is presented to be adopted.
Motion to approve?
I move to approve. Second.
Roll call Sandra,
Aye.
Sammy,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
and I. Again, 1408. Daniel?
This resolution is being presented to approve the committed fund balances. So part of our accounting guidelines state that if we use a particular object code or accounting code when we commit our fund balance, those dollars need to be presented to the board for approval in order for them to be committed. The enclosed resolution does outline which funds have been committed using this account code. I do want to just make sure and highlight that the 3.9 million was already brought to the board before. This isn't an additional 3.9. I just wanted to be sure to be clear and have all dollars that are committed using this code included in this resolution. So the other ones I'm bringing are ones that we have historically been committing with that same code, but we should just follow the same process. So all of the funds using this commitment is the 3.9 million in our general fund for future facility projects. Within our deferred maintenance fund, all of the funds in that technical fund of 1,400 are being committed for deferred maintenance projects, 1.9 million. The capital facilities, that's our developer fees, $797,000 roughly. And then lastly, the capital facilities fund, where we have the modernization happening, the fund balance there of 2.8 million is also committed using that code. So this is presented to approve that commitment.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Roll call Sandra,
Aye.
Sammy,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
Valerie,
Aye.
and I. Great. Teaching and learning, presenting these items are Dr. Vargas.
Okay, the first contract that we would like approved today is for JDT Consultants. And so they are an external group who has expertise on managing challenging student behaviors. So this contract would encompass 3 different types of services: coaching for our 3 behavior support aides so that they can continue to build their capacity of working with students with challenging behaviors. The second piece is providing direct services to some of our students who have the most intensive behaviors displayed, and they are the most trained in their field to be able to work with these students. And lastly, there is a professional learning element where they would provide to general staff, such as our paraprofessionals, our yard duty, our teachers, our admin, around trauma-informed care, as well as CPI, which is crisis prevention. So everything from verbal de-escalation techniques to certain individuals on campus being trained in holds, so that if a student is being physically aggressive, to protect themselves or staff or other students, that there would be certain members of staff who are trained to help that student relocate and be in a safer space. So we have used JDT in the past, and so this is a continuation and an expansion of their services, and so we're just looking for approval on that.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
I'm sorry, question. Before or motion?
You can,
I can clarify if there are any questions.
You said this is a continuing contract that we've had,
So yes, we've used JDT in the past.
and what's the difference between the last contract and this contract?
Yeah, so previously they did a lot of direct services, but with the addition of the 3 behavior support aides, they are now coaching them because the goal would be eventually we would not need them as much because we would have the internal ability to handle these students with challenging behaviors. So this is like a bridge until we get to that point, in addition to the workshops that they would do for the yard duties, paras, teachers, and so forth. That would be a new element of the contract.
And what's the difference in the price of the contract from the previous contract to this contract?
I would have to get that number for you.
I'm sorry?
I would have to get the number for you. I don't have that off the top of my head. It's Helen is also the one who manages this contract and she has been out, so I'm presenting on her behalf. But we have talked about the expansion of services based off of the needs that we've seen on our campuses.
I understand that, but I'm also wanting to know what the difference in the price is, because the figures that I saw on this contract, quite expensive. To me, that,
So I can look that up, but
I like to table it. I make a motion to table.
I'll second that.
okay, we'll go ahead and table it and we'll do roll call for the table. Sandra?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Valerie? Aye. And I would like some kind of a quick response because we have been seeing a lot of concerns with the students, so please, thank you. Prop 28 annual report, Ms. Vargas?
so this is one of our revenue sources to add to our arts and music programming. So annually we have to report out how many students were served, what additional staff was added. And so this was just to certify the report for the previous school year. And we will have funds as well from Prop 28 this year. So this is just part of our compliance procedures.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve. I second.
Roll call, Sandra?
Aye.
Sammy?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Valerie?
Aye.
And aye. Future agenda items? Identify closed session topics. The following closed session topics have been identified: conference with labor negotiators and student manners. Any public comment on closed session items? Okay, we adjourn to closed session at 6:33. Thank you, everyone.